Good afternoon. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Jason. Thank you for visiting Ski Fish and Enjoy Life. Well, we are approaching the middle of May. The spring bass run is in full swing, and I decided to do this video a little different. First, I'm going to show you the highlights from two recent surf trips I've had, both of which we catch fish. But instead of the normal high energy music joking around, which we will have a little bit in 4-minute clips, I'm going to go over the details and I'm going to tell you guys why we caught fish. And I'm also going to give you guys some tips to ensure that this spring is going to be great for you, because there's nothing I love more than being able to scream striper and fish on. That's what I want to do for you guys. So before we get started on some top tips, let's take a look at about 4 to 5 minutes of footage from my last two trips where we both caught some bass. Let's start out with shout outs. Subscriber Patrick was out the other day. He got his first bass of the year, a nice keeper for dinner. You can see the picture of Patrick right there. We also have subscriber Camille. He has been showing off. He's been getting bass, he's been getting bluefish, he's been having a great time. You can see those pictures right there. We're gonna be in the surf. We got fresh bunker, fresh clam, and sandworms. We have perfect weather, perfect tides, perfect white water. I am super stoked. Let's go. He's coming in. And we've got a striper! Soldier on, only you can do what must be done. Guys, we got Ken hooked off! Keep going with the wave. And Ken's got a striper! Alright guys, the spring is getting serious. We are here with LBI, the first time Mid-Island Surf. We're going to be fishing with some fresh bunker and clam. We got the wifey with me, dressed up as an Eskimo like usual. And rumor has it, we are going to have a world-famous guest star show up later today. Got a perfect ocean here. Any minute now. And LBI Craig is here! Woo! Might have misidentified! We do got a 31-inch bass that are 26. So now, I know you got 12 bass yesterday, and you got more in one morning than I did all year, but the score is 2-0. I just want to make sure you're aware.
I don't think that's fair.
Life isn't fair. He's trying to be quiet, and the wifey's trying to be quiet here so I don't yell. Oh, you think you have a bass? All right, use the wave to get him in. Nice, that's probably bass.
That's a striper, really? That's a striper. And Martin had a striper!
Now, let's do some background on these two trips. The first trip was a dusk trip in the Sandy Hook Seabright area. It was a few days ago this previous week. The gentleman fishing with me, his name is Ken. Ken is in his mid-70s, and I don't believe he has ever fished before until we met a couple years back. And every so often he does fish with me, and that bass that you saw him caught was the biggest of his life. The second video obviously had the wifey in there. I get a couple bass, she got a couple bass, but instead of the Sandy Hook Seabright area, this was in LBI, the Mid-Island Surf. Actually, even though the two spots we were fishing were about 60 miles apart, the same exact concepts that we followed that ensured our success were employed, and I'm about to cover those with you in a second. Now, I'm going to say I'm explaining this as basic as possible, where the very casual fisherman or someone who's just learning could employ this and employ it successfully. So this video is only a couple minutes long as opposed to an hour. I am leaving out different scenarios, different details, but I'm really giving a high-level overview here. So if at any point you have any questions as detail-oriented as you want, you could either leave it in the comment section of the video or on whatever Facebook group you saw me post the video, and I'll talk to you in as much detail as you'd like me to go into. So, okay, we are approaching the middle of May. I guess the first question that surf fishermen are going to ask is, what are the bass primarily feeding on when you fish for them in the surf? Well, I'm going to show you a picture of a recent 30-inch bass that I caught that I did fillet for the wifey for dinner, and it will answer the question right here. Each and every bass I catch and each and every bass my buddies catch that we decide to keep in fillet have bellies full of sand fleas. So right there, that tells us what the bass are feeding on. Now, next question is, what baits should I use to target these striped bass that are feeding on sand fleas? Ready? Ready? Let me really give this some thought. Obviously, getting a sand flea rake and using the sand fleas that are in the sand that they are feeding on would obviously work. Other baits that work just as well, maybe even a little better because they see it as a delicacy when they come across it. Fresh surf clams from the shell and also fresh sandworms. Those will get the bass every time, especially when they're feeding heavily on the sand fleas. Next question that people usually ask is, where do you go to catch the striped bass? This is actually a sincere answer, and I am not being a wise ass here. Anywhere from Sandy Hook to the beaches of LBI and beyond are where you could easily catch bass in the spring. Every single town in between that stretch, I'm just throwing out names, towns like Long Branch, Ocean Grove, Avon, Brick, Seaside Park, Island Beach State Park, so on and so forth. That will 100% get you bass, and a lot of them, if you fish correctly. Every stretch of beach has multiple spots that if you decide to fish, you will do very, very well. So now the next question is, what exactly are we looking for to properly read the shoreline and to properly target these bass that are feeding on the sand fleas? I'm going to show you a couple of diagrams on exactly where the fish are. The quick answer to that question is any trough right at the beach lip where you're literally lobbing your bait in 10 yards or less from shore is where you're going to catch the bass and where they're feeding on the sand fleas. You do not want to overcast, but it's very important that you properly read the shoreline and pick the proper trough, and you're literally just lobbing those baits about 10 yards or less into that trough. I'm going to show you pictures of exact areas that if you fish like that, you would get the bass. Okay, so now we know the bass are feeding on the sand fleas. We know fresh clam or sand fleas or sandworms lobbed into that trough is going to get them. Okay, next question. What time of days work the best if I want to catch some bass? If you're a subscriber of the channel, you already know the answer. I swear by the pre-dawn twilight, meaning I will always be on the beach when I fish the dawn, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes before the sun comes up. That will 100% work. But the thing I like about the spring, late afternoon into total darkness is the perfect time to fish. And through my experience, almost every time you will catch fish. So what do I mean by that? Let's say sunset is at 8 p.m., which is about when sunset is. Well, under that scenario, I will arrive to the beach between 6 and 6:30. I'll make sure 7 p.m. as the sun, is getting a little lower in the sky, all my lines are in the water. I'm ready to start catching some fish. The sun sets anywhere from 8 to 8:15. Now, the biggest mistake you could possibly make is saying, oh, well, sun's starting to set, it's starting to get dark, we better go. Do not, and do not do that, because as soon as that sun goes beneath the horizon, as soon as it's, I guess, called the dusk twilight, especially in the spring, the fish will almost always turn on. I've had a number of afternoons where I've been on the beach for a couple hours as I was waiting for dusk. I had a bite or two or no action at all. Second that sun went down long enough, and the second it got dark enough, it was like a switch went off and it was game on. So the two best times you could fish is going to be late afternoon to total darkness, continue fishing in the night, and fishing the pre-dawn through the early morning. One final thing I'll say about this is if you decide to fish dawn and you arrive to the beach and you already see the sun, you have missed your best opportunity to catch fish that morning and the best bite. The same applies if you leave before it gets completely dark. You have once again missed your best opportunity to catch fish, because that's known as, I guess, the magic hours in the fishing community, and that's when the bite will almost always turn on. One final thing about time of day, the middle of the day, high noon with the bright sun, is the slowest time of the day. And there's a lot of days where if I was out there doing all the things that I thought I was right, but it was the middle of the day with a bright sun, I wouldn't get a bite either. Final thing we're going to go over. I'm a little OCD. Okay, I'm more than a little OCD for those who know me. We're going to end this video with the biggest mistakes you could possibly make, things that you do that are unintentionally causing either failure or very bad results. So the final thing I'm going to do with this video here is I'm going to cover the biggest mistakes you could possibly make in the spring surf. We covered mistake number 1, not fishing the dawn and dusk twilights. Mistake number 2 is not using fresh baits. This technique I'm using works almost 100% of the time if you do it correctly, but I'll be the first to say the techniques I'm telling you are expensive. From the sandworms to the fresh clams to the fresh bunker, which I'll go into in the next video. Obviously, it isn't free, and to do it correctly, you do have to spend the money on it. There is a huge difference between fresh and frozen baits. When I say fresh clam, it's fresh surf clams bought in a bait shop. Not the bay clams you buy in the ShopRite, not the clam in the plastic container that's radioactive that was sitting in a freezer for the last 6 months. It's fresh clam from the shell. The worms are alive when you buy them, or at least they should be. And when you fish bunker, which we're going to cover in the next video, go with fresh bunker. And if you're going to listen to one thing I say, the clam, the bunker belongs in a little cooler with ice, not baking in the sun. I observe people fishing all the time. I see people using bunker that's literally rotten because it was laying in the sand in the sun for 3 hours. Every time you see somebody doing that, I want you to make believe you had macaroni salad or coleslaw. You left that on a picnic table in the sun for 4 hours, and then you decided to eat it. just guessing it's not going to turn out good for you. Another mistake I see is not reading the shoreline. You need to throw your baits and you need to fish where the fish are supposed to be. Earlier in the video, I did show you a couple basic diagrams on where you should be throwing here. I could do an entire video on reading the shoreline, which we're going to cover in a future video. If you guys had any specific questions on that, as I said, message me, ask me the question in the comments. I'll go as detail-oriented as you want me to, but reading on the shoreline and fishing where the fish should be is very, very important. Here's another one, and this one drives me batty, okay? Through my decades of fishing experience, I personally believe that in the springtime, fresh baits will outfish artificials, and then in the summer and fall, the artificials will outfish the fresh baits. Now, you all have your preferences. Do what you feel is best and what you find the most enjoyable. But for the love of everything holy, you're either bait fishing or you're throwing lures. Because every time I've seen someone attempt to do both, excuse my language, but there's no other way I could say it, you do each like shit. And why am I saying that? If you are going to bait fish, you're supposed to be watching your bait pole at all times so you do not miss the hit. When you get a hit, you want to be there within 2 seconds so you don't miss the fish. That's how you bait fish. When you're plugging, throwing SP minnows, throwing bucktails, throwing whatever you want, you're supposed to be walking a stretch of beach of at least 1/4 of a mile, and you're throwing in the hole, in the white water, on the sandbar. Ooh, look, there's a rip current there. Let me try that. Oh, there's a tip of a jetty. Let me see what's over there, and so on and so forth. What I see more times than not, I'll see somebody bait fishing. They're not watching their bait pole. They're missing fish after fish after fish. And then they're throwing their whatever it is, whether it's a Hopkins or SP minnow, in the same spot over and over again, not catching a thing. Pick one. Either properly bait fish or properly fish artificials. Just don't do both at the same time. Guys, I do hope that I was able to, help out a couple of you, catch some more fish or have more enjoyable fishing trips. I love having a lot of fun when I fish. I love the joking around. I love the high energy. I love every part of that because that is my natural personality. But especially if I see an interest, I'm definitely going to do more how-to videos or just tips to help you guys become more successful. So if you guys do enjoy the channel, please do subscribe so you do not miss out. And we will end this video like we always do. Remember, guys, every day's a blessing, and don't you ever forget to enjoy life.